Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. We are at Gen Con 2023, where you are back.
We're back.
Kingdom Death, Adam Poots, and successfully delivering the Gambler's Chest.
That's right. It is finally on its way.
Yeah,
Long journey.
One of the most, if not the most anticipated game of
Let's
the
be fair.
century.
It's an expansion to a game.
An expansion that arguably has a standalone game built within the core of it.
But for some silly reason, I did not make it a standalone game.
Seems a little ridiculous. Yeah,
it is an expansion.
You and your counselor can flesh out those details.
I don't think anyone's made a project this big and this ambitious with just their core fans in mind ever. Never before.
I would venture.
One of the manufacturers came up to me and he's like, "How are the sales going?" I was like, "Oh, we're fulfilling it. We can't sell it. It's pre-orders." Like, "Well, how are the pre-orders going?" I'm like, "I think they're going okay. But most people here already have it."
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, isn't it a standalone?" And that was the first time I was like, "Oh my God, it's not.
No,
it's not. It's not a standalone. What have I done?" It's too focused.
You've defined a genre, created an empire, and birthed whatever internal darkness you contained. But other than that, you know,
we're not as big as I think some people think. But
no,
that's okay.
No. I mean, your boxes are.
Yes.
Okay. So I have a series of questions, some of which are from me, some of which are from the community. I posed a video a little while ago, breaking down what's to come, what has been done, and what is currently here. Some of the stuff you won't be able to answer, some of the stuff you will, and you have full permission to say,
I'll do my best.
We can't talk about it at the moment.
Yeah, and if I completely flub it, I'll just kindly ask you to maybe doctor that particular sequence of events.
Yeah, okay.
Cool.
So, my first question is a question I think a lot of people have probably been curious about or asking or wondering over the last, wave of content coming. What is Wave 4 looking like? Like, we have the Gambler's Chest, but that's been delayed, and we know reasons why it was delayed. The pandemic happened, we had chaos in shipping, and not only that, but you expanded it from a small bite-sized project to something that could stand alone as its own game.
Yep.
What are we looking at when it comes to the next stuff down the road?
Maybe we rewrite history a little and we forget like the pandemic and we just say that we just worked really hard for the past amount of time.
Yeah.
And this is just how long it takes. You know?
Okay.
It's not totally true, but it's a nicer way to look at it.
Sure.
You know.
Sure. So when we look towards the future of the project and what you all are working on as a team, I know it's a giant success, and you all have had nothing but positivity from the community here at Gen Con, which is amazing. Where are you guys turning your focus to? What's next in terms of what you still have to complete, what you're working on for Wave 4 and for Campaigns of Death?
So before I jump into that, I'm going to take a moment to stare into the camera and apologize. I am sorry the Gambler's Chest took as long as it did. You know, the truth was that in New York City, we were, the shit hit the fan. And when we finally were able to get back to work, the kind of rippling effects from everything that happened in our world continued to affect us in unpredicted ways. And, I look back to the campaign in 2013 when we were struggling with delays from our manufacturer, and I had decided at the time to say that it was 100% on me, and I was completely in control of all the delays, because I didn't want... It looks bad when you start to blame other things.
Sure.
But the truth of the situation was we just had so much to contend with, and I didn't want the negative things that were happening in the world to affect the content. It was very, very important to me. So once we were able to pick up the pieces of our lives and our team and kind of get back to it, it meant that everything was going to take, just a little bit longer to get that last few percents of the project done.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we were. Where we are now, though, is just so much better. Like, the team is tighter than it's ever been, and when we got to finally get the Gambler's Chest off to print, and we didn't have to, review any proofs or baby it anymore, we picked up the Black Knight from where it was, and, finishing it was like a snack. It was like, oh my god, one monster? This is awesome! And it, kind of re-excited everyone again, because we went from this, endless, very difficult to develop projects to where we had left the other things and the other waves off, and it was just oh yeah, there's all this great stuff here. We just finished this.
Sure.
This is great.
Sure.
So waves are dead. No more waves. We are now going to move 1 or 2 projects at a time, finish it, get it out to people.
Okay.
And the crappy part about this is, well, maybe I shouldn't be focusing on any negatives, but the crappy part is that it means that lots of shipping. And I'm talking with the developers that we have that worked on the sim, because at this point they're much more familiar with Shopify, which is the cart we use for our shipping, it's our point of sales online. It's our point of sales online. And there may be a way, and I don't want to make any promises yet, for us to be able to kind of fulfill someone's items, but then it's stored somewhere on their Shopify account so that they can ship it to themselves later.
Interesting.
And this would be something we look at maybe sometime later, 2024. But I think that's might be a more sane way to go through it. Because initially, when we planned everything out and we're building the team up, we had everyone divided onto different waves as a whole, so that we could fulfill it all at the same time to make shipping more reasonable. That was not really tenable. So now we are shifting to laser focus, but that means that more rounds of shipping.
Yeah. I think that makes sense going forward, though. I think it's a smart approach to make sure you can continue and push forward.
I want people playing. I want people to play this content. We've been working on it for years. It's insane. Yeah. The number of playtests, internal playtests, art design, you guys need to play. All of it. Much faster.
Now, we've seen demos of what would have been considered Wave 4, what's now considered the next build or the next set of expansions. In terms of what's kind of ready to go or ready to start moving forward?
So I got digital proofs from our print factory while I was here. I haven't had a chance to review them, but Black Knight is
at Gen Con you didn't review them?
I'm sorry.
Some people accuse you of not working hard enough.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
There's also some support tickets that are building up. We only have one person answering them right now. Really great guy. But yeah, when I get home, I'm gonna review them, and then that means the Black Knight might be in print within soon, like a week or something. Frog Dog is very close. We have 2 or 3 more story events to just finish. The art's done. It's more about finalizing the copy, and then that goes off to our copy editor.
Yeah.
And then in September, we're going to do some serious planning with what we're doing for our time for the rest of the year.
Okay.
And it looks like we're going to be picking up Campaigns of Death, which is still a bit more long-winded because it has so much artwork that still needs to be made for it. And then it's just tossed between First Hero, Screaming God, or Honeycomb Weaver expansion, because those 3 are a little standalone compared to things that are part of proposed campaigns. And we're going to pick up one of those to finish.
Has this delivered? Has the Gambler's Chest delivered? Re-injuvenated the team in some ways?
Oh my God, tremendously.
It has to.
Tremendously.
I imagine at the end of that project or that portion, you were just slogging through.
It wasn't. We were. It was still a lot of work.
Yeah.
Just a lot. And every time you review it, you find things and things come up, and you just refine and polish and refine and polish. And at a certain point, we just had to be this is it. It needs to go out. It's got to go.
Yeah.
It's been worked on enough.
Yeah.
Let's move this out there.
Awesome. Quick question. We'll go easy now. We'll back off from the.
Oh, and the showdown board was supposed to be here, but something happened in the mail, and it got scheduled for Monday. So my samples are going to be in a warehouse in Indianapolis.
Good, that's useful.
Yeah.
You have them.
Yeah.
They'll go out eventually.
I'll share photos of it online when they come in.
Very cool. What is your personal favorite element of the Gambler's Chest? What do you feel the most connected to? Whether it's a piece of artwork, a story, a character build, an arc. What are you the proudest of? You think?
It's so Kingdom Death design in general is all about the connective tissue, and that was something that was a terminology we used a lot when we're working on the showdown. It's the core game.
It's a very fleshy game.
Was we'd look at something and be well, what's the connective tissue between this and that? And maybe we should develop, more assets or more things in the lore that bring these things together. And I think the most exciting thing about the Gambler's Chest to me, beyond that, I'm so excited for people to fight the Gambler. So much cool stuff happens in that fight. I just want to hear about it. I want to be at Gen Con. I want to hear testimonials. I want people to say the ridiculous things that happened to them that have made stories for them to remember. But just that the node system and the pillar system finally having a little bit of light in the gambler's chest. It's finally like I feel that I'm finally showing more of what the vision for the overall, because again, the connective tissue, the game world is the game, right? So the overall game world and the game now has rules for how you can more meaningfully play with all of the content.
Yeah.
And that is just like super exciting. Like Arc Survivors are awesome. Like being able to expand on the fighting arts, which to me were like at the time something lightweight and easy to get into, was just so much fun.
You're getting close to a never-ending game.
Yeah.
Like, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Like, where every session you play gives you information and incorporates something into the next session
exactly
you play.
Right.
So I have a question around that.
The Campaigns of Death is like the final piece of that puzzle.
Of that puzzle?
Yeah.
So a question around that framework. The Gambler's Chest presents us with modules that have a little taste of what could exist. And then 3 years ago, you presented the Vignette of Death, the white Giga Lion.
Yep.
And so you're giving hints that there's potentially a smaller expansion type of framework you're building out for Kingdom Death.
Yeah.
What's that? You know, do you have ideas around that so far that you're implementing that we can expect to see?
So or
is this a future thing?
The white box model, the white box collection, as they've come to be called, were us making, trying to make meaningful content from all these gorgeous models we had.
Yep.
And there's some things that were hits and some things that I thought were misses, like adding a sticker to your book. It was cute, but I don't think that's like a meaningful product that can repeat itself.
Okay.
And so the Gambler's Chest, I really wanted to make it so that we had more ways to incorporate meaningful content into your campaign.
Yeah.
So within it introduces Scout.
Yeah.
We can expand.
Right now we only have one of those.
Right.
I'm already pining for more.
I mean, we can make more Scout models, but we can also make more Scout gear. We can make more Scout discoveries, it's a cool place to hinge more ideas and more things that will organically come up as we work on stuff. And then we have Arc Survivors, and the philosophy system is built that we can create and just put a philosophy out.
Yeah.
And that could be something
self-contained little deck of deck of resources that you can learn and carry with you.
Making a philosophy is actually an incredibly heavy developmental lift because it has the entire booklet, the curve. We spent all this time
potential to incorporate and touch almost every aspect
trying
of the game.
To adjust the math on everything so that the different tiers felt appropriate. And then there's also all the artwork that go on the cards and in the book. So they're not small lifts, but it doesn't matter. It still means that we can just release a philosophy.
Are we expected to see more Vignettes of Death in the Giga Lion style? Can we expect something like that soon?
The Vignette of Death Butcher was supposed to be here. And this is the sort of double-edged sword of Gen Con.
Okay.
6 weeks leading to Gen Con, all we did was prepare for Gen Con.
Sure.
So we kept leaving. There's literally a page worth of text to finish. So when I get back, that's on the docket to finish. Maybe we'll see it for Christmas, Black Friday, but cool. It's tight,
Yeah.
But next year I definitely don't want to miss Vignette. It's supposed to be here. It would have been awesome.
It would, because those are some of my favorite systems and modules. It's also the idea of expansions like that.
It's more meaty than the Gig Line.
Cool.
Yeah, it's got stuff in it I'm super excited about. And Anna was making fun of me because I subconsciously did something that made a lot of sense, but I was totally unaware of, and I'm curious to see, once you guys have it, if fans pick up on it. Because no one in the office picked up on it except for Anna. Everyone else is like, no, you gotta be kidding me, but I don't want to say it.
We'll see. A question around all of the extra little modules we have. Like, for instance, the strain system that's been teased a little bit, the promo gear cards that you're sending out now, the gear cards that actually exist from things like the White Box collection, and then the full expansion, which is the Gambler's Chest. How do you, as a creator, expect or want the audience, your community, to interact with these products, other than just have them and have fun with them? Because I, as a gamer, I have a really hard time sometimes getting a new box in or getting a new like test run, and I'm already in a campaign or I'm starting a campaign, and I don't know how I'm supposed to incorporate it without messing with this thing that I might spend the next 30 or 40 hours on before I die and restart. So what's the buy-in? What's the idea you have as a creator for us to use these assets you're giving us?
So we have two models here that are pretty solid examples of this. One is Loon, and it's just a model that comes with a new character card. That's it. It's simple as that. Put the character card in your character deck, and you're off to go.
Okay.
And the other one is Longclaw Lenore, and she is what we call an indomitable survivor in the office. And she is a survivor. It's a cool model, but she has this new weapon, and you get the resource from a level 3 white lion. Okay. So you just fight a level 3 white lion. Gets your indomitable resource.
Do you recommend that people, though, take these things and they stick them on the side, and if they have the ability to use them, they go ahead and just mix them into whatever campaign they're running? Or is this a purposeful, start a campaign with the intention to use promo content type of thing?
So in campaigns of death, I think there's going to be a few ways to organize your campaign.
Okay.
One of them will be plan out everything ahead of time, know what your nodes are, know what your pillars are, run your campaign, right? But then I also want to do a version of it where you don't know until you hit a point on the timeline that tells you kind of what node you're going to fight.
Cool.
And this won't be for everyone.
Cool.
But it will make it so that you'll obviously know your core.
Yeah.
You probably won't know your finale monster, and you won't know anything besides your node 1 when you start.
And so you're entering the darkness when you start playing.
And I think a campaign like that is totally fair game to be able to add additional content, especially for things you haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
But for a regular campaign, I think it's more up to the discretion of the players. Adding a character card to the character deck mid-campaign is pretty benign, right? Just make sure you put a character card in there that, and when you're replacing it, you're doing it for something someone hasn't gotten.
Yeah.
Adding an indomitable resource to a deck as you get it, also, that's fine.
Yeah.
So you already fought a level 3 Phoenix. You fight another one, get the new indomitable resource you just picked up. It's not a big deal. But there are some people who they want to be as pure as possible, and I respect that. So campaigns of death is definitely here are sort of 3 modes that you can approach your campaign play with, because it'll introduce a layer on top of everything that's currently called Death Worlds, a Death World-owned settlements. So you'll sort of track, how campaigns went, so you can unlock your strains and stuff.
Okay. When it comes to, shifting gears a little bit, when it comes to the digital application of Kingdom Death, where are we? What's the feedback you've gotten so far, and what's the future look like for that? I mean, I have my resin key. I've hopped in a little bit. For myself, it was a little bit hard to run the game because it was so close to the physical assets.
That's right.
But it was beautiful. Yeah. The environment was incredible, and the way that you've built the game in the actual model is probably the single best physics system I've seen. That being said,
it's all online too. It's basically an online game.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant.
We're maybe a couple dev days away from being able to make global announcements and completely fuck with players who are playing it.
Okay, because I love the concept and where you are with it. I'm curious, as someone that would like to play it more, how can we make it, or are you planning to make it more accessible to people because you're on a computer?
I'm shifting, I've recently shifted the development focus on it. I don't run that project.
Okay.
Nick, who's here, does.
You kind of run everything.
I'm the boss, and things come to me, but there's too much going on, and when we first agreed to do this, I was like, I can't also be the boss.
Take it on.
The designs, everything, the direction is still mine, but it's not my 8-hour day job.
Yep.
It's something I check in on once or twice a week. When there's a new build, I get excited, I check it out, we get feedback. But I'm fundamentally changing the focus, because I kept making things that I thought were really cool and I wanted to see. And it's very easy with game development, it seems, to get kind of lost in the sauce, A good example of this is I wanted to introduce features into the sim, like the stuff that people are asking for, but as an experience instead of just, here's the feature.
Okay.
We have a feature where when you hover a card over a character sheet, it just records the card in the appropriate place.
Okay.
Simple, makes gameplay a lot easier.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, can we release that? And I was like, no, don't release it. We're going to design a ghost pen. So we made the artwork and we sculpted up this awesome looking Kingdom Death fountain pen. Then we designed it so that an actual thing could go in it, so we could 3D print it and have this pen in physical world.
Sure.
But now, instead of just putting it in the sim, we're going to design a puzzle room So you have to like complete a puzzle
so that you can unlock ghost pen that then allows you to scribe stuff down. It sounds cool.
Yeah,
Guess what's never going to happen?
It's going to happen, but the
no,
focus...
I mean, like, I as a player, it's too many barriers between me and being able to experience it.
Exactly. So fundamentally shifting away from all that awesome stuff that, we could get there.
One day,
But the accessibility and the gameplay right now, and until it's like as perfect as it can be, the focus is going to be on playing Kingdom Death.
Let's make it playable
in the simulator, not playing Adam Poots' version of a spooky haunted house where you do cool survivor horror puzzles. Like, I'd love to get to that. But
I love the idea of a spooky haunted house where I play survival horror puzzles. As long as the other room has a copy of Kingdom Death, I can play as well.
Yes. Well, I wanted it so you'd explore. Maybe there's furniture you could bring back to the room.
I did. All the doors were locked.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
initially, that day one. The day one.
But yeah.
I really like where you're going.
We've designed a room in the basement that's a hobby room that has our early takes on model painting and model assembly. But all that stuff is awesome, and it's gravy. And right now, we need to finish the meal. We're not ready for gravy yet, and that's kind of where I've shifted things.
Cool. All right. It sounds awesome to me. Let's see here. Another question is coming from me personally. We'll shift to the fan questions here soon. I will have a pause on the camera because it only records 30 minutes max, so we'll cycle it once. I figured I'd give myself the first window and give the audience the second. When it came to one of the best moments of my board game life has been seeing the email where you started scrolling through the update and then a picture of the king shows up and the announcement about 2 years ago, I think.
Yep.
I remember exactly where I was. It's one of those moments, right? I was on a bed in a hotel room, turned to the person next to me, screamed at them, said, "You don't know what I'm excited about. This is the biggest thing that's happened." What was it like in terms of bringing back the king into the Gambler's Chest? And how did you reconcile the idea that originally with the lore of the king and the struggle that you had with the Lantern Festival, it was this creature that was too powerful to even bother with survivors fighting it? They couldn't engage with it in any way. And so bringing it back into the Gambler's Chest and having it be a thing that we're able to experience, completing that story arc, I'd love just some insights into what that decision was like.
So, thankfully, there was no retconning. The king is exactly what I always intended it to be.
Okay.
What made, Lantern Festival kind of go into the Gambler's Chest was being able to remove the scribe from that.
The scribe specifically.
The scribe's a problematic one.
Okay.
And I've had some very early designs.
The scribe is also the one that's supposed to be able to snap and nothing exists, basically.
Yeah, potentially the writer of reality stuff. Yeah. So I was like, okay, we gotta make some game rules for this. I was like, you know what?
Doesn't work.
Not yet. Maybe one day.
Okay.
We'll release the scribe when we are, having the Kickstarter open source everything, and I'm taking my final hopeful victory lap, right? That'll be maybe where that goes. You are the scribe. Enjoy. But I would think we're a long way from that ever happening, if it even ever does happen.
So the king is what you'd pictured.
The king is exactly what I wanted it to be. Yep, including its powers, which
I don't want to spoil anything.
No, we're very hard to sort of describe through gameplay, and took a lot of trial and error, and it's so cool and so exciting. But it's all of this is still part of a world that was originally designed ages ago, and it's just taken so long to be able to show and tell everyone about it through their gameplay. And it's so cool. I think once we have people reaching the top of the inverted mountain, more of the picture will become clear. And it's so cool.
Okay. So the last question I have, and then we'll move to the fan questions.
Yeah.
Right now.
So yes, the king's exactly.
I love that. I love that because I didn't know if you had to adjust or retcon or change.
Nothing.
I can't wait to experience it.
Not a piece of it.
Cannot wait to experience it. So the last question I have, right now for you, for Mr. Adam Poots.
Yeah.
What is your favorite character build? If you're sitting down to play a game and you just want to have fun, right? Which is rare, few and far between when you're still developing a game.
Yeah, we work on all the most janky versions of everything for weeks and weeks at a time.
If you were just going to explore a character build, take one of them down a pathway, choose your quarries and your resources and everything designed around making someone that's fun, what type of build would you aim at? What's the one that you're having, you find the most interesting right now?
I'm getting pretty stoked to try making a Bloodglass build around the Crimson Croc stuff, and just be a survivor that is constantly trying to get as many bleeding tokens as possible without going over. And I'm not sure which philosophy I'd want to tether that quite yet. Impermanism is almost the obvious choice. I'm wondering what might mix up the gameplay a little more. But I feel like I have to actually play and see the flow before I can like understand it.
Cool. All right.
It's different when you're theory crafting versus play.
Yeah, of course. I can't wait to start. Shira and I will be starting our campaign this week on the channel, and then just continuing forward. But it's gonna live in a table. We have a studio house. It's gonna live in a gaming table until it is done. That's our commitment.
Cool.
So, all right, fan questions coming up now. Okay, fan questions. Just like 3 years ago, I asked you all on a video to let me know what your questions were for Mr. Adam Poots himself. And we'll go through those. I don't have them quite ordered. I might structure them a little bit, but really I just want to run through them and see what your thoughts are here. Do you have any plans on expanding the hunt events or the story events? This comment was saying that in their experience, after they've played as much as they have, they sometimes start seeing the same thing over and over again, or kind of know what to expect.
Right.
What are the thoughts in terms of that growing?
The Gambler's Chest answers like our first sort of step into expanding the hunt events. When you have Arc Survivors, which is a pillar in your campaign, you add the Arc Survivor Hunt event card, which kicks you to a new table of events. Okay. Similar with the Scout.
Okay.
I would love to move the entire hunt event table to cards. I got people in the office who fight me on this. I think it's insane. But if they're like big, maybe settlement event size cards, it would allow our ease of expandability.
Add in a single promo, and you've got a new one.
Yeah, buy a pack of extra ones, so on and so forth. Of course, at that point, then we'd have to go back through the original math that went into them and analyze and probably add deck building rules, so it's not just chaos and you could screw up the
It would also potentially
balance.
give you the ability to add in legacy cards where you experience this and this one now comes in and the story progresses in that way.
But
not that you need more to think about.
Jumping the shark here, the original innovation system was what populated your settlement events.
Okay.
And when you got an innovation, it would add 1 or 3 settlement events to the settlement event deck. But what we found during testing this, while it was cool in concept, the reality is you would add far more cards to the deck than you would ever draw.
Okay.
So the game mechanic wasn't like, I'm a deck, draw for me. Simple as that. It was build this deck constantly and fuss with it and draw with it.
Sometimes. Yeah.
So that could be a potential worry about the hunt event stuff, where the more cool things you add to it, the fuss and the brain RAM increases, and then it sounds like a cool feature list, but then it doesn't play polished.
Well, and right now the hunt is the more take a breath, relax through this part, and then we get to the big. You have a big economic, strategic
and
build,
the encounters,
and then you have the big encounter, which is chaos.
Well, the encounters already add a lot, so we're curious to see beyond our playtesting, how people feel about it, and
cool.
Where is the room for exactly? Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Some dedicated fan communities argue that elements of your game are twisted or broken or not weighted appropriately. I have heard you talk about this before. I think in the first interview we had, you mentioned that a game like this sometimes is about the experience of play.
It's always about the experience.
But I wanted to present the question again. I saw a few comments that were saying hey, there's some build pathways that just don't seem to make sense. There's some cards that seem broken. And you have retconned things before. What's your approach when it comes to a team approach to balancing the game and then listening to the community when it comes to their reaction to certain elements of the game being not as good, swingy, the highs and lows? How do you want to make everything even? Are you trying to do that still?
Never.
Okay.
Still. I said I want to make everything even?
No, not still. I'm saying part of the community argues that that's how a game should be.
No.
So the generic board game world.
As a game designer, I fundamentally disagree with bilateral symmetric gameplay.
Okay.
It's not. It has its place, and there are definitely, especially competitive games, where that's arguably the only choice. Because you want to make something. Or a collectible card game.
Sure.
It's a competition. Someone builds the race car, and then there's race car drivers. If there was always a right path, everyone would just drive that car, and that's not fun. But Kingdom Death isn't that game. We want to make things thematic and crazy and fun. Where we try to take note is when there is something that's abusable that has a very easy pathway to, as opposed to being an alignment of constellations. If there's something busted that will give someone an advantage, but it's ridiculously hard to do, or requires a certain set of or a certain set of content to make happen, we'll probably leave it alone. Good on you. You figured something out. That's awesome. As we finally kind of come out of our shell and Gambler's Chest is getting into people's hands, the sim is released, we're finally peeking into the Discord a little bit that the fans have created. And they've done You guys, I've said this in person to people who come here, that Discord is awesome. Like, as a creator, I can't be more thankful that it exists. I don't want to fuck it up. You know, like, just keep being you, keep being awesome. We are constantly endeared by it, and we very rarely lurk. It's not our place, you know. The Sim channel for chat and support we monitor because we're like actively fixing bugs and seeing how things go, but like, you know, that's not our place. Even so, when things bubble up and we see like something really abusable, we talk about it, and it's going to start going into a roadmap for things that we can fix with legendary card packs.
So one question that got a little bit more specific around balance. You fix some things like the counterweight axe. However, the red ring plus gloom man plus white speaker still exists. I don't even know what that combination is. Are you familiar with what's happening there?
A little bit, yeah.
Why do you make a decision around something like the counterweight axe, having retcon for that, but not around these other systems?
We released the legendary card pack, and it fixed some things. We did 1.6 and it fixed some things, and then the Campaigns of Death was supposed to fix more things. Okay. And guess what? We haven't released it yet. So we have, you know, a huge stack of finished assets for every single expansion, including like revisiting the Lonely Tree and making it so it synergizes with a few pieces of content to make it a lot more interesting. Like there's now if the Slender Man's in your campaign, it'll change the fruit that blooms on the Lonely Tree, the Dragon King. But again, this is thematic. It's not necessarily rules fixes and broken combo fixes, but all that was supposed to happen then. So we held back from adding any of that to Legendary Card Pack to keep that a containable, just like, here's where we're at. Cool. So it's all coming, and if there are broken things, we do want to hear about it, because there's only so much that our playtesting team will find versus like the wilds.
But the goal isn't necessarily balance. The goal is experience, accurate play. Yeah. It's about having pathways that are rewarding at sometimes and difficult at others.
Yeah. Someone told me today about a infinite survivor loop, infinite population loop that's very easy to achieve. I think you need 5 love juices to get there, and you know, protect the young. Yeah. And he said the way the math works out is it ends up just being infinite. So we're gonna look into that and see if it's like if it's something that can be done every single campaign, regardless of the content you mix in. Sure. Then we need to look at it more seriously.
I have to say, myself as a player, and I don't know if other players, like my goal when I play Kingdom Death though, isn't to break your game. It can be interesting to know the mechanics that work that way. Like, if you get infinite kicks loop, or like you know that you can get an infinite insanity loop, that's fun and cool to know.
Well, infinite insanity, there's still things that will...
But it's not...
That'll get you.
My goal is to play a game and to have fun. I don't necessarily want to press the button that creates the game a bad experience.
Yeah, but that's to each gamer. I appreciate the individuals who are like, oh my God, look at this, this, and this. Or even if you go in specifically looking for ways to break it, like you still need to navigate to get there. Sure. You know? And if there is a build or an Exodia moment, and this is, you know, obviously Bandai's property, I'm just using it as a popular term here, it's cool when you can get to it. Of course. And we should encourage that.
And if you spend 20 hours working towards it, is it really broken, or is it just the coolest thing ever?
Exactly.
There's a debate there. So let's see here. Skipping this question.
As long as it doesn't undermine the game, you know what I mean?
So someone was asking, how did you, before all of this became a thing, start building within you whatever Kingdom Death is? The story, the lore, the heart of the game, this nightmare world you've created. We've heard of it influences, like of course Berserk has a ton, you know, the whole anime, manga like scene has a lot of influence here. But where... for you, do you think all of this comes from or came from? Like, what's happening? Are you okay?
Am I okay? Probably not. It's organic, you know? It's just like something I inherently wanted to make. And I know we've had discussions, I'm sure, in the past about world building. Yeah. And the very beginning of it all was just like me defining some very basic world building rules that became the anchor point, or like the lens onto which all future questions were answered.
Do you feel like you have a good grasp, like a really good grasp on this expansive world that you've created?
100%, without a doubt. So cool. Like, I can take a walk through Kingdom Death in my brain whenever I want.
Because none of us can yet.
No.
But it's so cool that you can.
It's very difficult to, you know, get other people to be there too, especially when they're working for us. But, you know, it's just how it is. I don't know how else to say it. Like,
have you ever thought about doing a tabletop RPG?
We flirted with it. I did have some ideas, and this is back in like the 2016. Oh my God, we can do anything.
Back in the day,
we have ultimate power. And you know what I've realized is that actually I don't have time to do everything, so I should just do what I'm good at.
Sure.
And that's okay.
Sure.
But we did have an idea for a tabletop RPG. And the one kind of big mechanical change I wanted to do was that leveling up would be all circled around eating.
Interesting.
And the players would be encouraged when they level up to bring out their mealtime too.
Okay. Interesting. That's cool.
And that was also supposed to use philosophies.
To mix in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Several models mention black ice spires and models covered in snow. Is there a chance we'll see any part of this world?
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Eventually, yeah. It'll probably be little snippets and peeks into that window in the form of miniatures and their descriptions as we go on.
Okay. In terms of gameplay experience, any chance we'll step around there?
No, not anytime soon.
Not anytime soon.
After the Kickstarter, it'll most likely be Ringtail Fox stuff.
Cool.
And then someone asked me about the Rust Ocean, which I was so thrilled that people remember about it.
Yeah.
I don't know when or how we'll get to that yet, but
that's top of the hierarchy.
That's like so far on the back burner.
Okay.
You know. Gotta finish like the Abyssal Woods first, maybe. You know.
What exactly is the Gourd Flesh, and are they still part of KDM lore?
The Gourd Flesh?
Gourd Flesh is what they said. They said in update like 47.
Is this like one of the?
You mentioned a thing called Gourd Flesh, like an item or a resource, it sounded like a fruit to me in the way they described it.
Right.
And they wanted to know if that's still
not
a
the
thing
rockworms
that
are
exists.
things that people saw with the Smog Singer concepts, right?
This is one of those questions where I don't have more context.
Yeah. Being at Gen Con, while super fun, definitely whitewashes my brain
so
a little bit.
let me ask the question a little bit
It's
different.
exhausting. I actually feel quite good.
Yeah?
It's just like my RAM is all here and it can't access the rest of the hard drive right now. So I don't remember.
Let me shift the question.
Sure.
If people are looking at updates and models that have flavor text on them all the way back from the beginning, should they take those things as canon or as this is an idea and it's canon once it
99%.
exists? 99% is canon.
I'd say so.
Okay.
Granted, if it's a beta or a generic, that's kind of the place where we have a lot more flexibility as far as how it ends up being represented once it gets incorporated into KD.
Yeah. When doing development work, where do you start? What's the first stage of taking something and actually bringing it to life in front of you?
This is a good question because 2016 I definitely lost my way. Did I shake it?
A little bit.
Yeah, sorry. 2016 I definitely lost my way because we were riding so high at the end of the Kickstarter. I was just like, we have to bring it. We have to make the craziest things ever. You know, I can't believe that our efforts have been validated on this level. Like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And instead of working the way I used to, I was trying to way overcomplicate everything.
Okay.
And it took a little while to kind of remember and get back to sort of what, you know, the days when it was just me and Voltron, the cat, sitting there working on this stuff. And then me and Anna and the cats working on this stuff. What the original sort of flashpoints were. And for me, I like to just imagine scenes. I imagine things that can happen, sequences or feelings. And then I start writing those out. So a monster usually begins with just a bunch of very visceral happenings, you know, just like descriptions or flashpoints or like moments. And then once those moments start to filter, you can begin to piece them together and like a broader story or a creature emerges. And that has been for me as a creator my flashpoint and the best way I work.
Are you a very visual-oriented
I would say so.
Because there's two different types of mind mapping.
Yeah.
Some people are, like my wife is very, very...
Anna says she has no visual imagination.
So Shira's very...
I
she
can't,
sees words.
I can't even imagine what that's
and
like.
all I see are pictures.
There's like, literally non-stop festival happening in here.
Makes sense.
When I'm sleeping, when I'm awake, it doesn't ever turn off.
Makes sense. Van Neistat, a creator, brother of Casey Neistat, did a video on a book called Visual Thinkers by a psychologist that really challenged the way we view the world in different types of mind patterns. You'd probably connect a lot with that idea.
Yeah, I would say I fall into that category.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm obsessed with everything someone sees.
Okay.
And this means I'm also obsessed with the words that are on the page because it's something someone sees, but it's from that angle, from that lens.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Have you thought at all about doing some type of official team Kingdom Death campaign or anything? Like, you have the whole crew here hanging out and, talking about the game. Someone was wondering if you guys would put out your own gameplay.
We had a campaign in the office that got to Lanternier 6. It was recorded. It was recorded on a series of GoPros, and it has notes.
Okay.
And it was something that I thought would be really cool to polish, represent, and make little artworks for the scenes and stuff, like an official let's play.
Yeah.
But we didn't get to it, and then we just kept getting busy with work. It isn't part of the work yet.
Yeah.
And I'm very bad at taking a small idea and being like, I'm satisfied with this small idea, let's execute it to a fine level and move on. I always go, let's take this small idea and just reimagine it in ways that maybe we haven't thought of before. Maybe someone else has, but we haven't thought of it before. And how can we make the experience bigger and better and crazier? And so I was like, all right, we're gonna do the let's play, but it's not gonna be us. We're gonna hire really handsome actors
to
be us.
Yeah.
And it's going to be so cool, It's like, hi, I'm Adam Poots. The chair turns around, someone a bandana, super cool.
But the scale up on that is
maybe
one day.
Just keeps
maybe
going.
One day.
We gotta keep building the right team, not just any team.
You're getting there though. The team's strong. You said your team's stronger than it's
better
ever been
than
before.
it's ever been. Yeah,
which is awesome. Any interest, given all the amazing artwork and lore and world building that you have, in releasing a collectible card game?
I mean, it would be super cool, especially because they're fun, but it's not on the forefront.
Not on the docket.
Zachary Barish, while he was still working with us, he spent this is during pandemic, he spent a good year and a half on a card game currently called Titan.
Okay.
And we're pretty stoked to finally release this in some fashion because it's pretty cool, but we just we need to do the Gambler's just done. See, I'm still stuck there. Yeah. We need to make the Gambler's chest. Yeah. Quackalope. We have to make the Gambler's chest. We need to finish. We need to finish more of the campaign before we do anything outrageously new. Yeah. There is a chance that it might exist in some limited beta fashion within the sim, which will give us a chance to
that'd be cool.
Get feedback and see how it's going. Also get more people interested in the sim and playing there.
For sure.
And we might also, maybe we'll coincide that with a stress test or something, because it's stable and it's working well, but I don't know what happens when thousands of people hit the server.
Yeah. And,
at the same time.
A beta test of a new card game from you would do that in a heartbeat. Very cool. KDM 2.0. We've got 1.6. We did that soft update. Is there, or even 1.8 or whatever it is there a future soon where we're going to see another iteration or another big box? Or are you continuing to print 1.6 and it'll be more like update packs or card packs down the road?
I don't have any major second edition plans at the moment. Right now, to me, the things in the core game I'd want to tweak are, I'd love to reapproach the starting survivors, the Butcher, and the Godhand miniatures.
Okay.
Because at this point, our scale has changed, things are a lot more expressive, and it would be nice to have a refresher there. As far as the actual core game, I think the core is still pretty goddamn good all these years later. So I'm not sure what I would want to do. I think the true second edition might be something more like taking the floating elements from the Gambler's Chest and the Campaigns of Death and bringing that one step further back so that players who just get the core game can start to experience some of those things.
You're seeing what those systems
without
are
necessarily having to get those other two massive expansions.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and that's more about we've been so focused on you guys, the backers and the existing fans, that we haven't really given any thought to new fans. Yeah. And we got to meet a whole bunch of them today.
Yeah.
We sold out of our core games that we brought at the end of the day Friday, which is amazing.
I'm always surprised by the amount of times I get either someone stops me or I see a comment online and they're like, I found your video 6 months ago and bought Kingdom Death, and now we're starting it. And I'm like, but then I remember, I was that.
Yeah.
I wasn't involved in your original Kickstarter or the giant waves. I was one of those people that discovered it by happenstance, a year before you actually had the new print come in, and I panicked because I had to buy it off eBay initially. And those people still stumble along, and there's a bigger world than ever to let them explore, which is cool.
So I think this show has showed us that we have to start thinking about our new players too.
Yeah,
they're important. I wanna feel as endeared by them too.
Luckily, they have a little bit of time to catch up.
Yeah, they got some playing to do.
A little bit of work to do. Do you have a system you already mentioned this a little bit. Do you have a system or plan for fully randomized Kingdom Death?
Yes.
Everything we have, you don't have to plan anything.
Yes, campaigns of death, and one of the pathways to that would be fully randomizing it before you play, or playing a campaign that unlocks itself as you go.
As it goes. Are we planning on ever visiting the Grand Library?
I don't know. I feel like that's our Horus Heresy moment, maybe one day. Yeah. Maybe slight exploration in vignettes. That's more the appropriate.
What's the lore that's out there already on the Grand Library? Do we know much about it?
It's hard for me to tell because within the descriptions that end up getting posted online, usually that's cut out of paragraphs and paragraphs and pages of text. So I don't know off the top of my head exactly what we've said at the moment.
I know, that's why I asked the question.
Okay.
It's more fun if you try to answer and then we get something brand new. I'm trying, guys. I really am
trying to shake it out of me. Okay.
I really am working on it. Because someone will, they'll be like, that has never been said.
Here's a detail.
It's all purple.
Here's a detail that no one would notice. On the base of the distracted, pin-up variant, the grains of the wood are actually all small arms and hands interlocking. And the door to the, hidden libraries that the Order keeps are framed in this wood, and it acts similar to the way some minerals do against slugs. So certain things can't pass through them. And this is part of the protection they have set up, and part of the reality distortion they need to do to make sure that these things aren't found. So there's a little bit.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you from them. Will the Cyclops Night ever get game content?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah?
Hell yeah.
That's for that one person whose favorite thing in the world is the Cyclops Night. Good. They're freaking out.
I love that model so much. I can't wait to get back to it and kind of reimagine it, and then the content will be awesome.
Has the Green Knight armor, and I don't know the answer to this question, I don't even know the full system, so has the Green Knight armor be rebalanced so you can build it in a single campaign without relying on fancy birds?
The Green Knight campaign will be a campaign in Campaigns of Death.
Okay.
And we are, reapproaching the whole thing from the top. There's going to be story events and things that make it more possible. It also will dictate the specific quarry you need in order to build it.
Okay. So it will be possible for a campaign.
Yeah. The basic story there is the Verdant Lord has challenged you. You need to. The only hope to defeating him is to build the Green Knight.
And so the whole goal there is
that's the whole campaign. Yeah.
Is Silver City its own campaign?
I don't think it will be.
Okay.
I think the content there isn't quite heavy enough to be its own full campaign, but it will have potentially a different finale monster. And then it does fundamentally change your hunt phase when you're in the Silver City.
6-player expansion. Any word on development there?
No. Not planning on it.
Not planning on it.
The scout kind of adds a pseudo 5th character, and I want to see beyond our playtesting how that goes in the wild before we expand things further. I think for 6 players, the best thing we could do is officially support an unofficial solution, because it's difficult, and 6 players and the RAM that goes into it, and then rebalancing everything is not really. I don't know. It's not. It's a little outside of the scope of things right now to do that as right as I'd want it to be.
Cool. Makes sense. What inspired you to create the Gardens of Infinite Growth, and what do you mean by thrice cursed lands?
I can't talk about that stuff.
Nope.
Sorry.
What is the Gardeners of Infinite Growth? Where are they getting that question from? Because I don't even know the source of that.
I just, the individual that answered that question, I appreciate their diligence.
Okay.
And for looking out there.
Yeah.
And that's all I can say right now.
Cool. Very cool. Someone asked, I feel like this is not going to be a response either. Who makes the stone faces and the stone feet? Are there more stone things?
So the answer to where some of the stone faces could come from is in the very opening page of the core game rulebook.
Sure. Yeah.
And then another potential answer for that is actually at the end of the campaign of the Gambler's Chest. So.
Okay. We'll get more information as we play. Awesome. Is a lump of Arnis still part of the lore?
Yeah.
There is an item, actually, that's similar to that. Not the same name, though, right?
Lump of Atnus?
Yeah.
Yeah. Still part of the lore.
Should we limit nodes, or can we use multiple?
So for now, we have a little bit of the rules of the Gambler's Chest. I would say stick to that. Adding a second node 1 to a campaign isn't really going to unbalance things much. Okay. But the plan is for Campaigns of Death to cover that in a more meaningful way. Because there will be, before you start building your campaign, you'll get a campaign card. And a good, very easy example of that will be, here's a campaign card that's People of the Lantern, as defined by the core game. Here are your nodes, here are your story events, here are your milestone story events, off you go. And then it'll be a sister card to that that's core game, unbound. I'm using air quotes because I'm not sure that'll be the final word. And then it'll have just the Watcher, and then everything else you can kind of plug in. And that gives us the space to have
Attention Gen Con attendees and exhibitors. The time is now 3 o'clock.
We've got about 5 questions left.
That'll give us the flexibility to have stranger builds. It's all right, this one's just node 3s.
Okay. Any update on plans for stocking UK items like dice, for instance?
Yeah, we're going to be moving more and more things there. Okay. Our logistics partner is pretty solid. It's ironically the company that was doing fulfillment for the company that we were working with, and then they got, I don't want to name names, it's not really fair, but they got bought by someone else, and since then it was just, we were no longer a focus and weren't treated very well, and the relationship slowly disintegrated. But we have a solution for that now.
Is there, other than body horror, depth or lore to the amount of appendages that exist throughout, or other body parts that exist throughout the Kingdom Death world? Is there a reason for it, or is it just kind of there because it makes people creepy? It's creepy and it's weird and it's twisted.
I mean, sometimes you're a gorm, and that's just how your mouth works. The human hand is arguably one of the most crazy anatomical things that's happened, right? There's very few animals with opposable thumbs, raccoons being kind of one of them, and they get up to all sorts of cool and cute shit.
Yeah.
So it would make sense to me that, in a world that is sort of putting humans lower on the food chain, that, other things would have arms accessible to them.
Sure.
Because they're powerful.
Yeah. Very interesting. I've got about 3 questions, but for the sake of making sure that I restarted so I wouldn't, cut off the last 2 questions by not paying attention to the camera.
Sure.
All right, we're almost there. Have you checked out any other big box games like Oathsworn, for instance, which arguably are games that aren't your game, but have certainly been inspired by the foundation that you set?
I reached out to those guys. The only way I could was through their front door website. No one responded, which is a bummer because it looks cool.
Okay.
It kind of looks cool.
Would you want to check it out?
Yeah, I'll check out Oathsworn. Oathsworn looks awesome.
Great. So I will be emailing Oathsworn because they're incredible.
I want to see your game. It looks like fun.
Let's work this out. Really cool game. Not anywhere near your systems, but you can tell the inspiration for this big boss battle.
The idea that we could be a genre starter is insane. The boss battler genre, everyone's oh yeah, it's a KDM light game. KDM 100%. Light game is a thing people say.
It's a
That's
term.
Mental. That's crazy. It's flattering and horrifying in a humbling way all at the same time. As long as people are making their own thing, I am more than happy to see it. It seems awesome.
Can we get a little flirt around Destiny Moth updates? And what specifically makes it the best bug?
Wow.
Danny Cruz, the artist for Forge God and many other things in Kingdom Death that are amazing, reached out to me recently being yo, I got some time. You want to work with me again? I was like, Danny Cruz, yes. So he's actually sketching out the Destiny Moth now.
Immediately now?
Yeah.
Okay. What makes it the best bug?
I think there's a type of moth, I forgot the name of it, like polyantherous moth, and I had the pleasure of being able to see one of these in reality. And they're giant and beautiful and fuzzy and have this amazing antenna. I'm just like, wow, this jaunty is so amazing. I don't know. I mean, it's tough now because we got the Titan bee. It's like, really like the Titan bee.
Pretty good bug.
Yeah, it's a good bug.
Although my grandfather, he's a biologist, he would murder me for calling everything bugs.
That's true.
But nuance.
Okay.
Will we ever venture into the Holy Lands?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
There might be a little more of it sneaking into KDM content at some point because there's just so much cool shit there.
Sure.
But as far as it being like the place that it was designed for kind of like heroes, like I'd love to get to it. I just have a couple things to finish first.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
So, someone was asking around the vignettes specifically, have you thought about making them almost standalone little packages in their own right? Like, for instance, having a player board in there, a smaller one like we've seen now in the Gambler's Chest, 4 characters that can be built right from it, and a system like AI cards that allow you to run that module.
I haven't thought about that for vignettes, no.
Okay.
I just have not. Again, we
It's a
continue
cool
to be
idea.
focused on existing fans,
Yeah.
and the whole idea of focusing on new fans is literally something that I thought about for the first time here. Because everything has just been Gambler's Chest, make sure everyone's happy, enter these tickets, make sure the support's good, get these things out the door.
From a consumer of the main game, like this giant big box, a small pocket-sized, travel-sized one-shot
It's
sounds
appealing,
cool.
for sure.
Sounds cool. Will the Ivory Dragon move on the board?
Yes.
It is so freaking
It's on a 120
big.
base. It's on a 120 base. That's going to be turned into 3 fights. The bottom will be probably a quarry.
Okay.
The character on top, probably a nemesis, and then when they're together, it'll be a finale. Because it would be an absolute shame to have a model like that only hits the table
Stands
once. Well, only hits the table
Only
once.
hits the table once.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
That's right.
You play through 50 hours, show up, it lands, kills you, and you start back over.
Yeah, that's a little
good.
silly.
Not quite as good. The last question I have, probably the most appropriate question to ask for a Kingdom Death, interview video for all the people that have been waiting for the very end to find out what he's going to say.
What a build-up, ladies and gentlemen.
Male vignettes of or male echoes of death.
100%.
Yeah,
I already have them all illustrated.
Oh yeah, really?
Yep. They're super cool.
Were you number 5, number 6? What's the?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Right now,
I know getting artists to create male models has been a
that
struggle
continues to be the
some
challenge.
degree.
We're still learning how to really bring it on that side, but we'll get there.
Cool. All right. So it's in the plan.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. For myself, as someone who I have been up and down the journey.
Yeah.
I have loved your game and been obsessed to an unhealthy degree. Spent so much money collecting, models and building and playing. I went through the journey of, slowing down a little bit and being introduced to Kickstarter and the world of board games, and then continuing to come back to Kingdom Death. I've been in the journey of wishing that we'd hear something and being sad and disappointed and frustrated because I just want more because we love your thing so much. And I've swung back into the area where the fact that you've done what everyone for the years has been saying you will do, which is deliver not only a game, but deliver something that once again is going to redefine the shape of what people expect from publishers, is incredible.
That's a big thing to say. That was never the intent. I just again, the unique position and the pressure from having the success we did with that Kickstarter campaign, which is now 7 years ago, was so much that I wanted to give back to the community who believed in us and supported us with their dollars.
Yeah.
I wanted to give back to them so bad, and it's such a big and meaningful way. And it's heartbreaking that the pandemic sort of fucked so many things up, but I wanted to ensure that the Gambler's Chest was not affected by it, and that I could finally, even though it was a very long time, give that to everyone.
So on my side and on the side of the audience that I've seen commenting on the stuff we've been able to put out, the unboxing video, the build video, Facebook community that was so freaking out around this wave coming in, holy cow, and thank you. And also, I'm really sorry for the group and the 5% of people that exists in all realms of the internet
They're just frustrated. I get it.
No. I understand it as well. Like I said, I've been through the whole journey of stuff. But also at the end of the day, your team are humans. You've always delivered. You continue to deliver. And so I'm really excited to see what you all have in store. And I'm really thankful that you've created something that brought me into this hobby space. So, like I said, the Twitter post...
Yeah, I'm tearing up thinking about all this. It's crazy.
The Twitter post 4 years ago, 6 months after Quackalope ever started, this entire thing I have, literally just said, Kingdom Death, this is all for you. And in a very real way, still to this day, that is still the case with Quackalope. We're gonna go home. My fiance, who I met, who's now one of her favorite games of all time, is Kingdom Death. Yeah. Or not my fiance, my wife, who I met, who's one of my favorite games of all time, is Kingdom
guys did
Death.
it.
Like, we're going to go home and we're going to sit down and we're going to play this and we're going to have experiences with it and we're going to have memories that we carry forward for the rest of our life because of this thing that you've brought in. So thank you, and get back to work.
The convention and the money and all that shit aside, I just want people to play.
Yeah.
It was hard. I just want people to play and hopefully enjoy the content we made.
For sure. You've changed my life.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Okay?
Yeah, sorry.
It's an interview. You're good.
Thank you.
I
don't know what to say.
Anything?
I just am. I am at a moment of feeling very overwhelmed. It was a very long journey, and I just hope people enjoy the content that we spent so long making. It really. It truly was for the fans. And I just want to thank you guys for supporting us and believing in the content we wanted to make. As a creator, it's still surreal. And I still feel humbled. And I'm excited to finish up everything else that we promised. Thanks. Thank you.